In the aftermath of the firing of Brian Kelly, I wanted to spend some time going through the process of when he got hired and some of the thought processes of myself and LSU and why I think it didn't work out. I think everyone knows it didn't and everyone has their theory, but I'm going to take you a little bit into kind of behind the scenes on things that I noticed firsthand. But I want to first ask you to do us a favor, subscribe, hit that subscribe button and help us grow. And we love bringing you inside information around the world of college football, the NFL, as well as analysis from a coaching and scouting perspective. So appreciate you doing that. Check us out at LandryFootball.com as well. I admit that I go back with Brian Kelly, as I do with a lot of coaches, working as a scout in scouting college players for years, working as a coach and being involved in coaching search work. Studying coaches is something I've done for 40 years now, just like studying players. So you get a feel for what a person is and what he isn't as a coach and to some degree as a person. Although the folks I know best are the ones that I've worked with on a day-to-day basis. I didn't do that with Brian. I knew him all the way back from Grand Valley State. Saw him develop and move on to Central Michigan. Did an outstanding job at Grand Valley. Did an outstanding job at Central Michigan. Went on to Cincinnati. Developed that program. Excellent job there. And while people will criticize him at Notre Dame and he didn't win this, guy did one hell of a job. No one survives at Notre Dame for very long. He spent longer there than anybody, won more games than anybody, and he did a good job. I mean, people say, well, they didn't play as difficult a schedule. Well, in some instances, they did not at Notre Dame. Getting to the BCS championship game, Notre Dame's overrated, and they won a lot of games. He has a history of building good programs, showing a lot of discipline, showing a lot of organizational skills, putting together really good staffs. I mean, think about it. It's been talked about a lot. Clark Lee and Mike Elko back-to-back beat him and kind of finished him off. And people will say, well, yeah, those are two assistants. That's why it was good. He hired those guys. I mean, he found those guys when, Mike Elko was at Wake Forest and, Clark Lee was at Wake Forest. Mike Elko was a guy that was an up-and-comer. He's very good at that. It's one of the things that I thought that he'd be very good. And I told him several times, I thought a big-time job, whether it's like a USC or one of those big-time jobs where you didn't have the restraints of Notre Dame academics, I thought, you could maybe take it to the next level because you wouldn't have the restrictions. I spoke with him when the LSU job was open, and he told me he wasn't interested. And he actually told LSU no. LSU was looking in a couple of other directions and then went back to Brian. And I think being not turned down, but not getting anywhere with the other guys they were pursuing, they went back to Brian and they made him a really big offer with a lot of guaranteed money. You know that by now. That's where we are at the buyout. I often wondered, because Brian then took the job, obviously. Could have been telling me he's not interested because he just didn't want to admit he was. But again, I found out later he turned them down, so that tells me that he wasn't interested in leaving Notre Dame for a stretch. I'm kicking myself now as an LSU guy, as an LSU grad, as I've kind of helped. When I recommended Nick Saban back when they hired Jerry DiNardo, I'm actually right before he got the Michigan State job, I wanted LSU to look at him. They didn't, and it wasn't until Mark Emmert, they weren't spending money then, wasn't until Mark Emmert hired him. I knew that because I worked with him, and I knew how good he can be. I didn't think he'd become the greatest coach in college football history, but I knew he'd be really good for LSU, and that's what I was interested in. I really thought Brian would be very good. I'm kicking myself because I wonder, I know now in retrospect he came here for the money. When they went back to him and offered the guaranteed money, I know that he took the job for money and security. I thought I knew him better than that, and I didn't. Or something changed in him. I don't know. I missed it. The people that ended up hiring him missed it. Out of desperation, how some of these moves are made. The reason I say that is in his time at LSU, visiting him a bunch. Obviously, I don't live far from the LSU office building. He wasn't there a lot. I mean, I actually saw him at his place more than I ever saw him at LSU ops. And again, you're head coach, you do things, you hear there, you assume. I later find out he wasn't making appearances, like a lot of coaches do. Speeches on. He didn't do a lot of that. I also noticed that when they were putting staff together, and I get it, they got a big staff, and he certainly was engaged to some degree on who he put his coaching staff with. But the analysts and whatnot, he was not as engaged with that. He wasn't even around to meet with them in many cases. I know because I went over there and knew some of those folks that were interviewing, and Brian was letting other people deal with that. Recruiting, he was there for the big moments in recruiting weekends, but the off-season stuff, when you normally see the presence of a head coach, again, wasn't there. Concerned about it, yes, no question. But I trust that, hey, maybe things that I saw were not really what I saw. It's very clear as things are unraveling, and maybe things that people didn't want to say at the time to me and others are saying it now because he's gone and no repercussions. But people say that Brian Kelly checked out. I don't believe that. I believe Brian never checked in. And that was the problem. Yeah, they had the big win against Alabama, big first year, and there's some good things. Few and far between. When you look at his past, how he built a roster at Notre Dame, Cincinnati, Central Michigan, on each level, Grand Valley, his teams were always more physical. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They had really good talent. I mean, I got to know him at Grand Valley. I went to see a really good defensive lineman that was draftable at Grand Valley State. Doesn't happen very often. So the ability to find guys, I think Brian falls into the category that some coaches do, that they become comfortable. And all the talk about alignment and they let him do gave him everything he wanted. They gave him all the freedom to do things how he wanted. And what he chose to do was delegate. And quite frankly, some of the people he delegated to were not qualified to make some of those decisions. Recruiting is about proper evaluation more than sales. Recruiting is not about collecting talent. That doesn't win for you. It's building a team and knowing how to building a team. Getting players with talent is a part of it. But talent comes in different forms, and it does come in height, weight, speed, strength, durability. All those things are important. But it's about an attitude. It's about an effort. It's about being fully engaged in what you're trying to do as a team. And when your head coach is not engaged, when players don't have a relationship with their head coach, when the door is not open, or even if it's open, the head coach is not in there in some cases, that is going to have an effect of players are going to kind of figure things out on their own, get different messages, take care of themselves. It becomes a little bit more individualized and not team first. if you look at, again, a couple of his assistants that we mentioned, Clark Lee, Mike Elko, those programs, those guys have put together an ultimate team first attitude. They have the toughness and the physicality that I know firsthand from knowing those guys very well. They learned a lot of that from Brian. But unfortunately, he did not practice what he preached at LSU. It's unfortunate. He's going to walk away with a lot of money. It's unfortunate for LSU. It's important to understand what motivates the person. And just like evaluating players, the physical part, doing it for 40 years, knowing what it takes to play at the pro level, knowing what it takes to play at the college level, that's pretty easy for me. But not knowing what's in the heart and what's in the mind, because people can tell you one thing and do another, is indeed the key. It's the secret sauce. And they missed on it. And I'm saddened that I didn't see that coming, because there was no indication that that was the case. People say, well, he didn't get it done at Notre Dame. He's over it. No, he worked hard. He had some really good offensive lines, defensive lines, really good players, and they won big games. You can't be in a big game if you don't win big games. He did. Getting all the way to the BCS or winning 10 games a year at Notre Dame with their academic restrictions is tough. Marcus Freeman is doing a better job of recruiting than Brian. And maybe there was some of that at the latter stages of Brian's career at Notre Dame. Very well could be. Brian is not a guy that people like. He's not likable. I've had a relationship with him professionally, not so much personally. He's not very well liked. So he's going to get kicked and stomped on and backed over. But the guy had more credentials and qualities and a better record going into this job than just about anybody they could have hired. And if you look at the other candidates, haven't done a whole lot better. In many cases, they're not there either. But it's all on Brian. It's on LSU for maybe overstepping it. But if they had not offered them, they probably would have got maybe someone even less successful, maybe cheaper. But this to me is certainly a bad decision by the administration. I don't feel good about the fact that I didn't see some of the things, and I wasn't involved in the hire, okay? But my evaluations were inaccurate about him, which can happen if you're not in there in the building every day. But no, he didn't check out. Brian never checked in. And he's just cashing a check. So as they move forward, keep that in mind, and I think it's something to look at going forward in any coaching searches. And I tell that to everybody that I work with in the business. So appreciate you joining us. We'll get into how the search is taking place next. So make sure that you subscribe, share, so that you don't miss any of our upcoming content. Appreciate you joining us. Have a great one, everybody.